everyone, so in today's video, I'm going to be taking my Fluval Spec 5 out of storage and setting it up again. So I start off by wiping down the counter where I'm going to be putting it just in case there's any dust there, and then I dry it off. And then of course, put down the tank. As you can see, it is a little dusty on the inside from being in storage, so I am just going ahead and wiping this out. If you are setting it up for the first time, it's good to give it a wipe anyway, because there could be some dust from the shipping process or when it was sitting in the store. I also wiped the outside just to make sure everything was clean. Next, I'm going to add my substrate. I have it in this bucket here because the bag is leaking, and we're going to use the bucket anyway to clean it. I am using the fluorite black sand from Seachem. As you can see, it is very, very dusty, so pre-washing any substrate is important, but especially this one. Look how dusty that is. So I'm just adding a small amount of water to the bucket, and then I'm going to mix it up and get all of that dust out of it. As you can see, the water is already black, and I haven't even started stirring yet. So now that I'm mixing it up, you can really see how it has some pieces of dirt floating in there, but also just how thick and cloudy the water is. Once I just stir it around a few times, I go ahead and I drain out all of that water. While it is really messy at first, I do love using this substrate. It looks really nice, and it does grow plants really well if I ever choose to plant this tank in the future. Once I've drained all the water out, I can then go and start adding it to my tank. I only need to wash one bucket of this because the tank is so small. I'm using a scoop to scoop it up because it is so fine, and I'm just plopping it into the tank like so. I start off by just adding all of the substrate that I can scrape out, and then I actually use this aquascaping tool to try to round up the rest in the bucket because I had so little left that I needed to spare like every amount. This is left over from another tank that I had, so I didn't have a full bag of it. Once I added everything though, I went and used the same tool to smooth it out. Now this is what this aquascaping tool is actually for, so that is why it is working really well. Here you can really see what I mean when I said I was trying to salvage every last bit of this substrate. That is the thinnest substrate I've ever seen, but it blocks the bottom and gets the job done. Next, I'm just boiling some water so that I can boil some various woods. I have a lot of extra wood lying around, so I'm going to be adding a lot of it to my tank. That dark piece there is Malaysian driftwood, and the light colored wood is spiderwood. Boiling releases a lot of the tannins, so it won't turn your water as dark. I love tannins, but I didn't want this to be black water. I usually let things boil for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I turn it off, and I take the water and I pour it down the sink. Some people actually keep this water and make an extract for their tank with it, so that's always an option. As you can see, the boiling released a lot of tannins, and I can guarantee most of it was from the Malaysian driftwood. I let the wood cool for a little bit, and then I start adding it to my tank. Next up, I have a piece of spiderwood, which I'm just adding a piece of plant weight to because it's so small it is going to float. And here I'm taking another long piece of spiderwood, and I'm actually feeding it through a hole on one of my pieces of lava rock. Next, I'm adding this hide ornament here. I wanted there to be a proper hide because there won't be too many plants in this tank. Then I'm adding one more piece of spiderwood, and I'm adding a plastic plant here. This one is smooth enough to be used for a betta. Lastly, I'm adding 2 little betta leaves. I'm adding one on each side, so my fish has options. And this is what it looks like all decorated before I go ahead and add the water. I'm showing you now because half of these are probably going to end up floating the second I add water. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and wash and add the filter media. I didn't show me washing every part, nor did I show washing the heater, but I guarantee that everything is washed. Once it's all washed, you can add the carbon and the Biomax inserts or ceramic rings into the filter sponge, and then you can slide it into the filter compartment. And here I am also adding my heater into the compartment with a little pump. And now it is time to add the water. It is important to note that I am not checking the temperature here because the water is going to reach room temperature by the time a fish goes in there anyway, so there was really no point. When I add the water to any of my Fluval tanks, I always add it by pouring it into the filter compartment. It really helps by not stirring up the sand. It does stir up the sand a little bit, but definitely nowhere near as much as when I pour it directly into the tank. And as you can see, the Malaysian driftwood, as expected, is starting to float. I didn't have enough plant waste for every piece. It's not too big of an issue though, because within 24 hours, it'll be on the bottom of the tank where it's supposed to be. Now that the tank is full, I'm gonna go ahead and add my light. The light just slides into this little slot on the side of the tank. I also apparently forgot to film putting the lid on top of the tank, but as you can see, it is there, so I did do that as well. The last thing I do is just go ahead and plug everything in. I already had the little light cords connected because I had set this tank up before. And then I plugged in the filter as well. I'll add the heater later when I get another plug. Here I'm just showing off the light options on this tank. As you can see, it has the white lights and then it also has this blue light setting. This clip here is from the next day. The Malaysian driftwood was now sinking, so I placed it where it was supposed to go. Then I'm adding all of my treatments to my water. I'm starting off with some water conditioner, and then I'm using this bacteria supplement, which will kickstart the cycle of my tank. While it looks like I'm adding them immediately after each other here, I did do the recommended 15-minute gap between the two. These clips are before I put the Malaysian driftwood back down. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Even though I have done a spec setup before, it is one of my most popular videos on my channel. So I know you guys like to watch these. I am so excited to be able to add a new inhabitant into this tank. Here is a little sneak peek of my next video. This video will be out in just a few days, so make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss it when it uploads. And if you like the video you just watched, then make sure you give it a thumbs up. I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.